Nasankana. That is Charles Daza and the Revenants right here on the David Bowers Awards. And Larry's going to come in here right now and say hello to all of us and tell us all about the band. Welcome aboard, Larry.
Thanks, John. Glad to be here.
Oh, you got Dave now. Dave is here.
Oh, Dave's here. Oh, hey, Dave.
Yeah,
how are you?
Dave is in the building, yes. Doing just fine, thanks. I'm so glad you could be with us. And understand, if I'm not mistaken, that it's like, 6 o'clock in the morning where you are?
Yeah, it's a little after 6.
Very
6
good.
6 a.m. on Tuesday the 30th.
And we want to thank you so much for being up a little, for missing a little sleep to spend some time with us. We're so glad to have you here. Tell us about Charles Daza and the Revenants. I understand that the lead singer used to be with a heavy metal band.
Yeah, Charles actually his roots are in really like a death metal type music. He was one of the original founding members of the super heavy metal band here by the name of Sen here in the Philippines. And they are actually regarded as being the grandfathers of heavy metal here in the Philippines. So that's where his roots are basically from.
Wow, that is really something, especially when you listen to a song like Nasankana, which is so totally removed from death metal. You'd never think of it. So yeah, that is quite. How did he make the jump?
Well, I actually met Charles probably about 6-7 years ago, and I was doing some work in his studio, some private stuff of my own, and doing just various projects over there. And he was actually also a guitar player in a few other bands here, and one of them, which was a band by the name of Starscream. And he actually hit me up one day about coming into Starscream and playing drums for that band. So, of course, I wanted to break into the music scene here a little bit after coming from the States. So
I was going to say you have a very Americanized accent. I didn't think that was a pure Philippines accent.
No, I was actually born and raised in California, and actually during the 80s, I was more in my prime musically, and I was doing a lot of work in like the LA club circuit, Orange County. I had played in many bands and had performed a lot of different recordings, doing a lot of session work.
Well, I was in the LA club scene a little before you. I was out there in not that much before you, actually. I went out there in 78, and I was in till probably the mid-80s, 84 or so.
Oh, yeah. I was actually probably mid-80s is when I actually started doing a lot of work in LA and Orange County, Riverside County, all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Done a few gigs in Vegas, way back then.
Yeah, I had to tell you, those were some good old days.
Oh yeah, I mean, I miss those days. I really do.
Me too. Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Yeah, after coming to the Philippines in 2005, I had relocated over here and was trying to get into the music scene here because it's a completely different culture, and it was interesting, to say the least. But
I bet.
Anyway, after playing with working with Charles on a lot of different projects, one day he played this song for me, which is a song called Beady Eyes, which he had written before. And then he asked me if I would lay the drum track to it, and I said sure. So, but probably, just after I laid the drum track, it was probably a couple of weeks later, and he just out of the blues, came to me and said, "Hey, man, I want to do a blues project." And I said, "Okay," it was kind of bizarre. And
Surprise!
Then, because I had known him from the metal scene, I'm thinking, okay, dude, you're taking a stretch here,
Just
but,
a bit.
Yeah. And then he had started writing several different songs and music-wise, and it was like almost a complete 180. But Charles, he actually got right into his realm. You know what I'm saying? It's like
right, his calling.
Some of the stuff he was writing and putting out, it was like, dude, you should have been doing this all along. It was just really musically, it was very, very, very good. Lyrically,
Sure.
it was also very good.
That's really, really neat. And John Bon Jovial, I know you've got something you wanted to get in here.
Well, yeah, I wanted to jump in and talk about musical styles. Before we do that, though, I think that I had migrated out to California about the same time that David did, although we didn't know that each other was out there at the time. But if you were in, I used to go down to L.A. all the time, but if you know where the Owens Valley is, Bishop, Mammoth, that area, and I, lived there for quite a few years, and like you, I miss it quite a bit. And we did a lot of radio out there. But, I want to talk about musical styles for a second. I mean, I can see a jump from metal to blues. I can kind of accept the concept of that. But to go from metal to this melodic tune of Nasan Kana, and I don't know if I forgive me if I'm saying it wrong.
No, it's okay.
That's a stretch of a segue. It really is. And, it's a beautiful song. And like David, I also wonder why. Look, we play music for the love of music. And if it's a commercial success, that's great. But I also wonder why something like this wasn't done sooner to try to augment the type of music that maybe you might prefer to finance it. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I've never really quite asked that question before of anybody.
Well, I don't know. I'm not really a songwriter myself too much, but I do write and play and do little things here and there. But Charles is really kind of a unique person, and even though he wants to, it's the blues type rhythmic patterns in most of our songs, but he stays very in touch with his Filipino culture and the Filipino type music, which is really not very widely known worldwide. With the type
now,
of
is
culture.
Is Nasan Kana a typical representation of what Filipino music is?
Well, for the most part, I think it is. We actually released a Tagalog EP here just at the end of last year, and it included Nasan Kana and 3 or 4 other songs on it. But it's kind of where the music is at this time, original music in the Philippines, is along that line. Nasan Kana, of course, speaks of, the typical love affair type thing where the girl leaves and tells the guy he's going to come back, and she didn't come back, so he sits around all night drinking. And then the one line in the song says, Sinisigaw, which it translates in English in multiple ways, but Sinisigaw means like I'm screaming or I'm yelling or I'm calling is the meaning of that. And then when it's repeated, it goes into it's an ad, like I'm screaming out, I'm screaming out, where are you now? and that's the English translation of Nasan Kana.
Well, thanks to your helping me with that when we first talked a few weeks ago. We did discuss this last week because I previewed this song for our listeners last week, and I did go into a little bit of the explanation that you just gave, but so much better coming directly from you. Now, I wanted to touch on one thing because the music world is so messed up, like everything else in the world right now, with everything that's going on, especially the coronavirus. Tell us about the music situation in the Philippines. Now, you've mentioned the differences in music, but tell us a little bit about what the market is like for an indie band.
Not good. It's I mean, the music business is the music business, and I think we all know that. Record companies, record labels, they want to make money, and they want to sell. But of course, nowadays we're into the singles game, and we're into the digital marketing and digital this. So it's a lot easier for indie bands to actually get their music out there for people to listen to. So it's a little easier that way. But with reference to perhaps signing a contract or something
the big
of that
bucks.
nature. The states, of course, there's a big advantage over there because there are so many very good indie labels over there that really get into the P&D market, the P&D type contracts or deals with various artists. Here you're dealing with subsidiaries of like Sony, Universal Records are here, Viva Entertainment, Viva Records, and it's strictly from my perspective, for being a foreigner here, but and coming from like the States and the music scene from the U.S., it's very very difficult here. It really is.
I can understand that. Now, is there any way you get your music exported to the States, for example? Because I, for one, have been in the music business for a long time, and I have not heard a lot of Philippine artists.
Well, it's actually last year. We actually have only been together for, it'll be 2 years this November. But when we came out last year, we had started performing live here and there, and we got kind of fortunate. I had sent a couple of our blues songs to a label out of New Jersey, Bongo Boy Records. Mm-hmm. And you're probably familiar